This is Sunday Morning Together across Australia on Vision Christian Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Sunday Morning Together. Tosh Sturgis filling in again for Phil Edwards this week. All around Australia, we want to extend to you a special welcome. Maybe you're on your way to church or coming home from church. Maybe you're not even going to get to church today. Well, we want you to feel welcome as we spend the morning together. We'll be here for the next few hours without ads or many other distractions. And just focusing in on our good Father. Like the psalmist says, this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. That's Psalm 118, verse 24. Joining us today in the studio is chaplain and pastor Nick Carroll from the Beenleigh Baptist Church, where he serves as the next generation's pastor. Nick's a devoted husband, dad to two beautiful girls, disciple of Jesus, an all-round wild man, so I hear. Welcome to Sunday Morning Together, Pastor Nick Carroll.
Good morning, and good morning, everyone around the great Southland. It's good to be here today.
It's great to have you with us, Nick. And so you've been in ministry for how long now?
On and off at Beenleigh Baptist, probably 4.5 years. And as a school chaplain, 13 years this year.
Nick's our guest today here on Sunday Morning Together. Stick around because we're going to hear a lot more of his story and about what God's been doing in his ministry lately. We'll also be hearing the best 5-minute sermon you're going to hear all Sunday, and Nick is also going to lead us in communion. Pastor Nick, were you a young person when you came to the Lord?
No, I was 22 years old. So I was raised in a devout Catholic family.
Yeah.
And then I stayed over a friend's house, and he's just like, we're going to church tonight. Took me, and then, I never left.
And so how old were you when that happened?
I was probably 18 then, and then I made a commitment when I was 22 years old at the Beenleigh Baptist Church. Reverend Peter Francis sat me down next to the drum kit and then led me through. And then, from there, it's been a wild story.
A wild story. We're looking forward to hearing some more of those wild adventures. What are your focuses on at the church at the moment?
At the moment, I got to rebuild the youth and young adults ministries. So,
wow.
It's all about outreach in the community, getting to know the community, but also discipling young people to be the next leaders for the Lord in the future.
That's amazing, mate. Raising up the next generation, it's such a biblical foundation that God puts for any leader. What are some of the things that you see there as foundational for youth today?
Youth today, they want to be involved. They really want to connect to community. They want to be a part of something, but they don't really know how to anymore. So, getting them involved, letting them develop their skills, and then once you set them on the path, serving, there's no stopping them. Then the Gen Zs really want to be a part of things.
Nick, what do you think is going on in our society or in our nation right now that's hindering them from even knowing how to connect?
That's a very good question, and I'll throw my opinion out there, and the good folks around the country can do what they want with it. But I think what we call a generation is so much shorter now. So how myself as a 40-year-old, I'm struggling to keep up with technology, with the world, with the way things are. Where it used to be once you retired, once you were 60, 65, your generation was then moving to the next generation. But what's happening now is a generation is maybe only 10 years.
Wow.
So there's such a huge gap between the Gen Zs, millennials, but then the gap is even ancienter. That's not even a word, is it?
It is today.
To the Gen X.
Yeah.
But also Gen Zs are highly relational generation. So it's all about kind words and being in touch, where Gen X's, they can be very blunt.
Yep.
So there's the generational divide is so much more extreme today than what it ever has been in the past. And that's something we need to sort of grapple with as well.
It's amazing seeing with the online culture there's this, even like as the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas are coming through, there's this difference in even the language that some of the kids are using. Do you notice some, like your friend who's in the studio with us is laughing here. Yeah. Now, Mac, there's like the skibbity rizzlers and all of the language that comes through. And as I say that, you shake your head, I shake my head on the inside. But what is it that a generation feels that draws them to each other in that fashion, makes them unique?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it was even the same. I grew up in the 90s and we said like wicked and filthy.
Yeah.
And I love the two guys at the Bible Project. They still say gnarly.
Yeah.
And I've brought gnarly back.
Nice.
But even words that we would say that was once a positive thing now has a completely different meaning. And a lot of that has to do with the hip hop culture and all that. But it's because for me, I was born and raised in Beenleigh, and everything I got was out of the Rolling Stones magazines that I read at the news agency because I never had money to buy them. But the Gen Zs live in a global village. So their village isn't one town where everyone dresses the same, listens to the same music. They all live, like all my friends, I could walk to every one of their houses.
Yeah.
Where Gen Z, they're living in a global village, so they're exposed to all different types of words, slangs, different meanings, different ways of interpreting things. So in one sense, it's a beautiful thing. Like their knowledge is just so much further than what I ever had. But then it's knowledge of everything, like everything. The world is their oyster. Where me, I only knew what people in Beenleigh knew, and then when I stepped out of Beenleigh to Brisbane, I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Why does everyone blare their horns all the time here? Like, it's so aggressive and fast. And then I went to Melbourne and my whole brain was blown away because it's like an international city where these guys, they're just raised in a global village.
Yeah, that global village, it's obviously facilitated now by the access to social media and content and influences all over the world where interests are just as much of a cave as a cave used to be a cave, a footy field as it used to be, or the shopping centre in a generation gone by, or a school perhaps even more so in a generation before that. That global village, it's bringing in a homogenous thinking into different generations. How are you seeing it where you've got these kids that think like children in other nations, but they're here in Beenleigh, they're in your backyard? How are you taking your generational knowledge and wisdom, but approaching it to these kids that think globally?
Bringing it back to community.
Brilliant.
Yeah, bringing it back to love thy neighbor.
Brilliant.
So yes, they have the global village, and oh gosh, their expectations of preachers is just through the roof because they're just watching them all online and on Instagram all day, and then I come up, daggy old me, and but bringing it back. I'm just having a rant here, Australia, but bringing it back to just your backyard. So whatever you're learning, whatever you're picking it up, there's no point to it if you're not passing it on. So if I often tell them about the Sea of Galilee, how a river flows into it, and then you have this awesome lake that has life and abundance, but it's because it gives. The River Jordan comes out of it, where the Dead Sea, the Jordan flows into it, but then it doesn't flow out. It doesn't give, so it's dead. So for this Gen Z, it's all about whatever you're gaining, you have to give back to your neighborhood. So not the world, not your city, your village, your neighborhood, your street. And it starts with the person next to you.
I guess, Nick, what you're saying, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like if we want to be the hands and feet of Jesus, no matter how much time our mind spends internationally, we're just a number in a comments section. But where we can really be hands and feet is locally. Is that what you're getting to?
Yes, and real relationships.
Real
relationships. So, yes, bringing it back to community, but, to love your neighbor as yourself, that means that you have to connect with them, not online, not, how they often do, not in a text message, but, break bread with them, get to know them, know their story, where everything with the global village is all what I want. So everything online is what I want, what I'm interested. But when it's love your neighbor, when it's back to your village, your town, your neighborhood, it's actually about, well, what do you like? Tell me your story. How can I assist and help you? How can we come together?
Nick, we're going to come back soon and go through communion. Can you share with us this morning how we can prepare our hearts for communion?
This morning for communion, we're going to be focusing on Jesus is enough. So between now and when we meet together for communion, enter into a time of reflection of all that Jesus is enough, and why do we move and want so many other things that don't actually add to our lives?
It was Sunday Morning Together. Tosh Sturgis with you this week, and we've got a special guest in the studio today. His name is Nick Carroll, and he's going to be sharing communion with us. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today, as we prepare for communion, I want to take us into a powerful moment in the Gospel of John. It's a scene right after Jesus feeds 5,000 people with just 5 loaves and 2 fish. In John 6:35, Jesus says something truly profound. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will not go hungry, and whoever believes in me will not be thirsty. So let's pause and imagine that scene. Thousands of people had followed Jesus into a remote place. They were hungry, tired, uncertain. Jesus takes the little food that they have and multiplies it to feed everyone. More than enough to satisfy their physical hunger. But Jesus isn't just talking about bread for the stomach. He's pointing to something deeper. He's saying, I am the bread of life. He's inviting us to come in to Him, not just for physical sustenance, but for spiritual life that satisfies every deep hunger inside of us. The longing for purpose, peace, acceptance, and eternal hope. As we come to communion today, we remember Jesus' body broken and His blood shed, His ultimate provision for our souls. Just like the bread He multiplied in the wilderness, He offers Himself for us. This is a beautiful invitation this morning to come to Jesus, as you will never be hungry again. Trust in Him and you will never thirst. No matter the emptiness you feel inside, no matter the struggles or fears or how bad your week may have been, Jesus promises to fill you fully. So as we receive communion, let's remember this. Jesus is not just a temporary fix for hunger or thirst. He is the eternal bread of life, the one who sustains your every need. Jesus is enough. So pondering on that thought that Jesus is enough, I would like you to hold your elements now and think about the sacrifice that Jesus did make for us. And let's all take it together. Let me pray. Loving Father, we just come together all over this great nation to acknowledge that you are enough, that you are the bread of life, and that when we believe in you, our souls are quenched forever. And Lord, I just pray that we always remember that the great love that we have from you came from such a great sacrifice. And Lord, I pray that each one of us will continually live as we are loved by the God of the universe, and that we may love loud to love our neighbour as ourselves. In your loving name, amen.
Sunday Morning Together. Across Australia on Vision Christian Radio.
Tosh Sturgis with you this week, filling in for Phil Edwards. Our guest today is Nick Carroll. But Pastor Nick has brought a good friend of his in, a young fella called Mac. Welcome, Mac.
Oh, g'day, Tosh. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here making your national radio debut.
Oh, mate, it's honestly just, it's amazing, eh?
Yeah,
No words.
Look, I'm still chuffed really being a part of it all. The reach that we have across the nation here at Vision, it's really quite an amazing ministry, and really blessed to be a part of it. And we're really blessed to have you here today. Mac, our friend here, Pastor Nick, was telling us that you were someone in leadership at your high school, but now you're back there in the schools serving the children. How's that working out for you?
So of course I've been mentored by Nick for a good while now. He's been an influence for me since the end of high school, and like Nick was talking about earlier, giving back to I guess our neighbours, our community. It's always something that's been dear to my heart, especially in the Beenleigh area.
Yeah.
A lot of people just struggle and going through strife, and there's especially in that world where we're in that global village where we have so much different voices and stuff.
Yeah.
It's usually a lot of the voices tend to be, like through news or through social media that are, very, I don't know, just very, I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to find a word for it.
Opinionated? Very strongly opinionated?
Well, yeah, but like it's in a way that's very oppressive and not in a sense that is, inclusive or sharing love or anything. It's
that victim mentality, right?
Yeah.
That accusation of you're trying to oppress me and,
Well, it's a mix of that, but also like, well, I'm going to have the life I want at the detriment of yours.
Right.
Like it's that, I just do me.
Okay.
But,
so
whoever...
difference.
Yeah, so whoever suffers at the point of that, like I get what I want, but then it's like I'm going to throw you to the dirt because of that.
And so that's happening in the atmosphere around there in the Beenleigh area where you are, and you're there as a chaplain in the primary school. Is that correct?
So at Beenleigh Primary School, yeah.
And how are you finding ministering to those kids there and supporting them?
Well, the key thing is being a bearer of hope, and just encouraging these kids. Like I said, there's so much voices out there, and a lot of them tend to be negative. But the last thing, like there's too much people to listen to, and the last thing kids need is to be overwhelmed while they're at school. And as a kid, like, going to school and you're worried about, oh man, like this work's too hard. And then you're thinking about all of life's problems all come together, and it's just like you sort of wonder, like with all the different sources of information that kids are getting these days, how their heads don't overload. But it's all, I guess my position is just being a bearer of hope and just going, hey, like, it's good to have you here and you can do this. Like, you can smash this maths exam and, relationships as well, just making sure that we can have those good friendships and those long life-lasting, friendships and relationships.
And Mac, we've got just less than a minute to go in this little spot here, but what kind of advice would you give to parents who are looking after kids these days?
I guess advice would be for parents looking after their kids these days is encourage your kids.
Yeah.
Encourage your kids. Every little thing they do, encourage them. Because we seem to set huge expectations to ourselves. And we don't take the small victories heaps. We tend to look at the big victories, and then as a result of looking at the really big thing, we tend to just get gutted if we just make the smallest mistake, because it never lives up to our expectations. But yeah, just taking them small victories and just building up and just standing on those small victories. Yeah,
it's amazing what kind of encouragement it can be to a young heart when someone from that generation above speaks well to them, hey?
For sure.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for joining us this morning, Mac. It's been great to meet you so far.
Sunday morning together across Australia on Vision Christian Radio.
Tosh Sturgis filling in for Phil Edwards this week. And our special guest host this morning is Nick Carroll from the Beenleigh Baptist Church. Welcome along again today, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a fun morning so far.
It has been, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more of your story as we progress on in this next hour here. So you were born and raised in Beenleigh, mate?
Yes, I was. And my family date back in Beenleigh to 1890.
Wow.
And from 1890 until I think 2019, somewhere around there, a member of my family had always lived on James Street, Beenleigh, continuously.
Wow.
So it was a a major family event when Auntie Joni finally moved down to the Gold Coast.
Wow.
And it's like there's no one left in James Street anymore. And I was raised on, there's a big hill in Beenleigh, famous for kids that are learning to ride their bikes and skateboards to go down it. But I was raised as a child on one side of Lehman's Hill.
Right.
So I would always be on my back pergola and would see Lehman's Hill. And I now raise my family directly on the other side of Lehman's Hill.
Nice.
And I stand on my veranda and I see the other half of Lehman's Hill. So I haven't ventured too far, but I think I just love the town and community too much to ever leave.
Brilliant. And for those around Australia who aren't familiar with Beenleigh, it used to famously be the home of Beenleigh Rum Distillery. What else can you tell us about Beenleigh?
Beenleigh was a central country town. It was the highway, the Pacific Highway went straight through it. So City Road and Main Street now in Beenleigh was the highway. So anyone travelling from the Gold Coast to Brisbane or vice versa would always sort of stop in Beenleigh up until maybe the early 1970s, late 60s, to go to either the corner pub, that was the tourist pub. There was 5 pubs in one street in Beenleigh in those days. They would stop there for lunch, or they would stop at one of the 2 bakeries or Yatla Pies.
Oh, Yatla Pies.
Yeah, which was sort of all central to Beenleigh. So it was always that stop. And I remember my grandparents laughing because the corner pub, they were one of the first pubs to sell hot chickens for lunch.
Wow.
And the whole town is like, that's the dumbest thing ever. And I'm like, why is that dumb? Everyone loves it. And Nana's like, because everyone in Beenleigh has their own chickens they can just slaughter and eat any day they want. Why would they buy one?
Right.
But these owners were thinking big. You know, outside Beenleigh, city people don't have chickens, but they love roast chicken for lunch. So, yeah, Beenleigh was that. But now everything's grown around it, and Beenleigh is now just swallowed up by Logan City.
Yeah.
And I think it's a town fighting for its identity at the moment because it's not that country town anymore, but there's still so much happening. Like, if anyone goes to Zarafa's to get a coffee, well, those beans are roasted in Beenleigh.
Right.
The headquarters is in Beenleigh, and they still make rum. Rum is still made there, and if you eat steak or mince, good chance that cow was slaughtered at the meatworks in Beenleigh.
Wow.
So, yeah, big things are still happening there, and but it still has that country town mentality, which is really nice. It's a positive thing.
That country town feel, it's a hard thing to find in the city, particularly a capital city like Brisbane. How do you find that working in and around the relationships with the people there?
Yes. Community. We still have like the Cane Festival parade and all that, but it is hard because the city mentality is you live an individual life. You don't really know your neighbours and that consumerism. And most people in Beenleigh now will travel out to go to major like Westfield shopping centres. So that whole wanting to travel further out, rather than like for all our listeners in country towns, you walk the pavement. You know, in a country town, the most beautiful thing is you hit the pavement, you walk up and down the main streets, where in cities you pay for parking and then you have to walk a kilometre to go into the big Westfield or the big shopping centre, and you don't know a single soul on that journey. So, yeah, so fighting for that to teach kids today that have that city mentality is, hey, to have that country spirit, look up and say hi to people. Look up and get to know people that you're passing.
Sunday morning together on Vision Christian Radio. Tosh Sturgis filling in for Phil Edwards today, and our special guest in the studio is Nick Carroll, who's a local from the Beenleigh area, pastor of the Next Generations at Beenleigh Baptist Church, and we're hearing a little bit about the town of Beenleigh and their experience as a country town on the edges of city life in the Brisbane area. And Nick, can you tell us about when you were growing up, what your experience was like in Beenleigh and that country feel that you had there?
Yeah, Beenleigh was just very insular. So all my friends, we all lived on the same streets. We did actually go to different schools. So all my friends went to Windaroo Valley. It was just opened, brand new. And but my grandmother was a very devout Catholic.
Yeah.
And she was actually the first lay teacher at St. Joey's in Beenleigh. So she,
Wow.
when nuns were all the teachers, she was the first lay teacher to come in. I think she was scarier than all the nuns from reports. And she ended up being deputy principal there as well. Wow. So she's like told all her kids, hey, your kids go to St. Joey's and Trinity College. So we went off to those schools. Can't complain though. But our life was just your typical 90s life. So as soon as it was the school holidays, my dad would tell my brother and I, shoes off. And we weren't allowed to wear shoes for the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
To air your feet out. And he would just lock us out. And we just went, played lots of footy, rode bikes. But then I guess once we got to high school, all sport got replaced with electric guitars, grunge music.
Right.
We all grew our hair. But it was it was really good. It was really good.
Yeah, and how did that progress on for you into a life of faith? What was your journey of coming to Christ? You shared with us a little earlier about the age of life, but what was the journey like for you?
Yeah, so as I said, I was raised in a Catholic family, so my parents are both still very committed to their parish, to their church. So I always grew up with faith, I guess, faith conversations and everything. But my parents, when I finished year 11, my father, who worked for the local meatworks, he was offered a role in country South Australia. So any listeners from South Australia, my parents lived in Narracourt for 11 years and worked in the meatworks there. So I moved in with my grandparents. So imagine a 17-year-old boy living with their grandparents in their 80s.
Wow.
That was a culture shock even in the 90s. Like, imagine that today. They were very good to me, but to get a little bit of space, I ended up making friends with a guy called Mark, and he lived in Shayla Park in Logan, and I would catch the bus home with him, and I would hang out with him. But he'd never told me in all our friendship that he would go to this local Pentecostal church.
Wow.
And so one day, I still remember the day exactly because the Broncos that year were on the bottom of the ladder all season, but they had this massive winning streak to make it into the finals. And so I was watching this game. They couldn't lose. If they lost this game, they were out. They wouldn't make the top 8. And he's like, oh, Nick, we're going to church now, to night service. And I'm like, no way, the Broncos, we're hanging in here. Our season's on the line. And he's like, nah, we're going. My house, my rules, we're going. And I'm like, no way. And he's like, Nick, the girls are hot. And I'm like, giddy up, I'll get my shoes.
Okay.
And we went. And just picture, I only knew church as the Catholic Church.
Yeah. That's
all I knew. And this was a real life Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
So, no offense to any listeners, but for a 18, I might have just been 18 by then. I'm like, this is like the cults they were teaching us at school.
Right.
So I've grabbed him like, how dare you take me? And he's like, no, Nick, trust me, you're going to love it. And I did.
Wow.
I spent 3 years there, just hanging out.
Yeah.
But, these were nice people. Like, they wouldn't steal your money. They wouldn't steal your wallet. They wouldn't steal your girlfriends. So I started hanging out there, and then I ended up becoming an apprentice baker for a bakery called Brumby's.
Oh, yes.
So I couldn't really go all the way to Shayla Park for these night services. And then I realized, I didn't Google it because there was no Google back then, but there was a Baptist church in Beenleigh. So I thought I might just go there. And no offense again to listeners, but it was a little bit tamer, which suited my sort of laid back, relaxed life's personality. Yeah. And then I made new friends there. By that stage, I was in my very early 20s, so I started hanging out with the young adults. They had a really big, really close young adults group back in the early 2000s, and they just invited me to all their things. And then listening to the sermons, I started realizing I knew the Bible, I prayed, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. I hadn't declared Jesus as my Lord. Right. So there was this sermon on a Sunday night all about how Jesus brings peace. Right. You know, Jesus brings peace. My yoke is light. And then I went up to the preacher and I'm like, well, why don't I have this peace? Wow. What's missing in my life? Like, why am I so stressed and angry? But you're saying Jesus brings peace. And then he's like, Nick, we've been waiting for this. And he sat me down and took me through the sinner's prayer. And then the very next week, I was mentored by a guy there who was a Bible college student at the time. And he's like, Nick, let's do this real. Let's get straight into it. So before I knew it, I was teaching Sunday school. He was teaching me the Bible. I was going to Bible studies. And then, and it just started this huge adventure in my life, because I think being a disciple of Christ, it really is an adventure. There's lots of ups, lots of downs, lots of in-betweens, but you wouldn't want it any other way.
It was Sunday Morning Together. Tosh Sturgis with you this week, filling in for Phil Edwards. Our guest today is Nick Carroll from the Beenleigh Baptist Church. He's been sharing with us about growing up in Beenleigh, about his time in his journey of faith. And Nick, you were saying before the break that you were at church for a few years, then you went forward asking, how do I get this peace in my life? And the minister said, okay, we've been waiting for this. Tell us about that time that you spent in church around the Christians where you hadn't made a decision for the Lord. What kept you there?
The people. Yeah,
really?
The people, the community that was there. So I was doing religion really well because that's all I guess I knew. I knew how to do religion, and I knew going to church was the right thing to do, and trying to live that faith out was the right thing to do. But what really kept me going was that they genuinely loved me as a person. So being involved, because I didn't really go to the morning services because I was a baker and I worked Sundays for a long time. But going to the night service, they would invite you out to the Sunday. Would often like go to the beach or go to South Bank in Brisbane, and then we'll come back for the night service. And some of the young adults would sleep through it. I was the guy that took notes. Yeah. I was like really hungry to learn everything I could about this Jesus. But then, they included me in it. And then afterwards, they would have what was called Yak. Some people might remember these days. And then after church, you'll go to Yak, you'll go out for dinner, you'll go to someone's house. You're always together. They're always building you up, always encouraging you. Sometimes taking the mickey out of you if you're getting a little too big for your britches. But I guess the pastor, excuse me, they saw that there was something missing in my life. Because to do religion, to do that, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of self-effort to try and put this, I guess, this mask on that things are okay when they're not. And I sort of had one foot in the church with all these new friends, but I also had a foot in with my old friends that I was still friends with from high school. And a lot of them had already, by the age of 21, they already were like had addictions to gambling. They were drinking heavy. A couple of them were drug dealers because they figured they didn't really want to work, but they're good with numbers. So they would do that. And that ended up very bad for them. So I sort of had a foot in two camps. And then there came a time where I had to, I guess, decide where I'm going to build my life? What foundation am I going to build my life on? Is it the quicksand over here with my old friends, or yeah? But I didn't quite know how to really do it. I thought I was doing it, and I guess some of the young adults there probably just thought I was, because I was memorizing the Bible. I was reading it every day. When you're a man searching for God, I think that's when you're the most hungry for the Word of God at times too. You're searching for that truth in life. You know, what is the meaning to all of this? And I think that's what a lot of 20-year-olds, they're like no longer under their parents. You know, they're adulting in the real world, and they're like, well, what do I do? Like, how do I be a person in this crazy world? Yeah.
And as you made that journey to commit your life to him, and you, as you said before, you made him your Lord, you gave him your life. How did you find him start to lead and guide you there out of relationship, as you said, as opposed to what you were talking about before with religion? How did you find his lead and guide personal to you?
It was that peace.
Yeah.
I remember feeling it straight away, knowing that I don't actually have to do it. I just have to believe. And then, this peace. But I think what was really, I was very, very blessed, because I committed my life to the Lord, but then I had people discipling me. Yeah. I wasn't just left like to just, wing it with the young adults and concentrate on the sermons. All that stuff's good, but I actually had men. I was in my early 20s. These men were in their early 30s, so they were one decade ahead of me. Yeah, teaching me everything they've learnt so far. All the mistakes they've made, the good things, they guided me to the right books to read, the right authors. They guided me to Greg Laurie, Chuck Swindoll, all the guys from back then. Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life had just come out, and that was very exciting. And I got to see him at the Baptist World Congress only a couple of weeks ago, so that was exciting too. So I was discipled as well. I wasn't left to just figure it out on my own. And that's why I'm very glad that today, like, churches are remembering, oh my goodness, we need to get back to discipleship.
And so as they gathered around you and they were discipling you, preparing you for what was to come, how did you find the difference with what you received there to maybe some of the peers that you were with who maybe didn't have that? Because you said you were very glad that they took that time with you. Did you see others come into the church that didn't receive that kind of care, or perhaps display that kind of hunger?
Yeah, I was very different to the church, the kids that have been raised in the church.
Yeah, okay.
So I came in like a wrecking ball. There was the BC Nick and the AD Nick, and it was very clear where I remember talking to some of them, and they're like, oh, I wish I could tell where my life changed. Right. It's always just been the church. It's always just been, this is what we do. And I'm seeing that in some of the church kids I'm working with now, and my wife was one of those kids. So she's always like, Nick, remember the church kids. They don't have what you and Mac that we just heard. We don't have that whole big, wow, this is the new chapter of my life. So I probably was favored because of that, because I was like the wild boy, even though I was the tamest out of my group of friends in school. Because I didn't like to get in trouble. Consequences never sat well with me, so you try to avoid consequences. But I was favored to that degree, but I think it was because I had so much passion and excitement about living a Christian life. Yeah,
so they wanted to champion that side of the Christian experience. They wanted to put forward that excitement about having a relationship with Jesus. Do you think in those church kids' mindset?
Yeah,
I mean, I've raised my kids in the church, and I've come maybe from a similar experience to yourself. Sometimes in the church there is this desire to bring out a passion for the things of the Lord. So they grab someone like yourself, Nick, and say, look, Nick's had this transformation, and then Nick can share out of the excitement that Nick has got in his heart. Do you think sometimes it can also create a sense in the kids that have been good kids, who haven't had a walk out there in the world, who've never had a BC version of themselves, who were raised in the house of the Lord? How do you think the giving of profile, or the giving of a storytelling, or you're using of an example of someone like yourself, how can that be done well inside of a church so that those kids who are raised in church don't feel like that they've missed out because they haven't got the radical transformation story? How can we in church life esteem that walk of holiness of youth?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I can see Mac nodding his head there, because I came in when I first got the role at Beenleigh Baptist as the youth and young adults pastor. I came in too hard with my radical BC, and I think some of them were sitting there like, how was he employed?
Yeah.
Like, are you letting him disciple us? And it is a good question too, because I'm raising my kids in the church, and I'd much rather them not have to go through the stuff we went through.
Absolutely.
So it's important that the church kids and anyone that's just spent their whole lives in the church know that their story of God's faithfulness in their lives is just as radical and amazing as anyone else. But I sort of use it now. I tone it down a bit, and I think it's also important for the church kids to not just think there's an us and them as well, like that. When community kids come to youth group, they're not actually as scary as we all think. They're just kids in the neighborhood as well. So
just kids needing an answer. Kids needing direction.
Yeah, and God's we all have a testimony of how God shaped us anyway, and that's worth telling.
It was Sunday Morning Together. Tosh Sturgis with you this week, filling in for Phil Edwards. Our guest today is Nick Carroll. Nick, you've been sharing with us about discipleship and about how when kids from the community come in, you just got to treat them as though they're just another person that needs love. We should never be afraid of them, even if they've got a colourful past. Can you tell us how you're going about that right now in your role in ministry?
I've found a sort of, I hope it's a clever way to put it, but what I've started to say is with all the youth and young adults that I'm working with, and there's lots of community kids and young adults coming in, for us, we're to live loved and love loud. So we, as Christians, as disciples of Christ, we live as if we're loved by the creator of the universe.
Amazing, mate. And
then we love loud. Love has to come in, and then it has to come out loud.
That's beautiful, man.
So that I was hoping it would sound clever, but
very,
because I guess the gospel, the order is God loved us first, God sent His Son, and then we love others. So if you take God out, then it doesn't work, because we only love because God loved us first. So for us, we may not be evangelists, we may not be the big extroverted people. A lot of my church kids are introverts. The Baptist church, we tend to bring in the introverts, the theologians, not the musicians. So, but anyone can live as if they're loved by the God of the universe, and then mimic the Son. So mimic what Jesus did with your personality, and then love your neighbor as yourself. And if we create a culture of that, well, then no matter who they are, when they come in, that they're going to feel that authentic community. We're going to be people that are bearers of hope, and then they feel connected to community. And then the important thing is let God do His thing. Don't allow room for the Spirit to move.
Sunday Morning Together on Vision Christian Radio.
Our guest with us in studio is Pastor Nick Carroll. We're going to go across to him right now for the best 5-minute sermon you're going to hear all Sunday.
I would like to share a story about a man named Demas. He wasn't just a random figure in the Bible. Demas was a close companion of the Apostle Paul. He traveled with Paul, helped in ministry, and Paul even called him a fellow worker. Imagine that, working alongside the great Apostle Paul, witnessing firsthand God's power and miracles. But something changed. In 2 Timothy 4:10, Paul writes about Demas. He wrote, "For Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me and gone on to Thessalonica." Think about that for a moment. Demas walked away, not just from Paul, but from the mission God had given him. And why? Well, Paul said, because he loved the world more. Maybe Demas got tired. Maybe the sacrifices he had to make, the pressure, the hardships of following Jesus, just became too much. Thessalonica was a wealthy, bustling city, a place of comfort, of luxury and security. Maybe Demas chose these things over a difficult and sometimes painful calling of serving the Lord. Think of it like this. Imagine you're on a ship sailing across the ocean. Now your goal is to reach a distant island filled with treasure. This island represents God's purpose for your life. The journey is long and sometimes stormy. Along the way, you spot another island. It looks beautiful with palm trees, soft sand, warm breeze, and Beach Boys songs. It's tempting. It offers rest and comfort, but it's not your destination. Demas saw that other island with the Beach Boys music, Thessalonica, the island of comfort and worldly pleasure. He stopped and anchored there. He abandoned the voyage. The sad truth is, this happens to many of us. We start strong, full of passion for God's calling, but then we spot the comforts and distractions of this world, and we choose them over staying faithful. But here's the warning. Demas didn't fall away because he stopped believing in God. He fell away because he loved the world more. And if it could happen to someone working close with the Apostle Paul, it can happen to any one of us. So here's the question. What do you worship? Because the Bible tells us we all become what we worship. In 1 John 5:21, we're warned, "Dear children, keep yourself from idols." This means we must be careful not to let anything or anyone else take God's place in our hearts. Jesus said in Matthew 6:21, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Whatever you treasure most is what controls your heart and your life. If you worship God, your life points to hope, to purpose, to faithfulness, even when things get hard. But if we worship comfort, success, popularity, money, material items, or anything else that this world offers, those things will pull you away, bit by bit, until you drift far away from God's plan. We all have a choice right now to follow the fleeting attractions of this world or to stand firm, faithful to God's calling, no matter what the cost. So thanks for listening to me today, and remember, your heart follows what you worship. So this week, let's choose wisely. Loving Father, I just thank you that we love because you loved us first. I thank you that you are enough. And Lord, I just pray for all my brothers and sisters around this great country this morning, that we will endeavour to love you with all our hearts, soul, mind and strength, that we may put you first above everything else. In your loving name, Amen.
This is Sunday Morning Together across Australia on Vision Christian Radio.
Tosh Sturgis filling in for Phil Edwards this week. And we're back with Pastor Nick Carroll from Beenleigh Baptist Church. He's going to share with us now around his calling into ministry. Nick, how did it work out for you that as a young fella, come to know Jesus, you were discipled by some great men of God who really poured into you, the church was behind you. How did you make the journey into ministry? Where did that start for you?
For me, instantly.
Yeah.
So the man that was discipling me, he was at Malian College. He was an evangelist, and he was very missional in his ministry. So it was all about, rather than the church saying, "Hey, we're holding an event, come to us," he was very big on, we as the church need to go out to them in the local community. So like missionaries, but in your hometown. Brilliant. So we're at Beenleigh, but he planted a missional church in Eagleby. So it wasn't like a rival church to any of the others in the area. It was a church that was modeled purely for the unchurched.
Yeah, wow.
And he's like, "Hey, do you want to come along?" So I sort of became like an apprentice pastor.
Yeah.
I was very young, so he sheltered me from all the politics. I'm only learning all the politics that happened now in my 40s when I talk to him. But so we got straight into it. He had me on a preaching roster once a month. I was leading. Remember the days when you didn't have to be a singer to lead a church service? It was just you emceed it and you put like real inspirational little stories. Well, yeah, Hillsong and Darlene ended my career at running church services that way. Oh. But he got me right into it. I was my wife's actually better at all this stuff than me. But she came, we were dating at the time, and she came along and helped. We were running Sunday school, we were running a youth group, but they were all unchurched kids. And then my pastor at the time, he was a chaplain in the schools, but before SU were a thing, like coming in, he just did it for free.
Yeah.
He just went into the local schools, and he was always this, "Nick, we just need to just champion these people. We need to no judgment, because we're all just doing the best we can with what we know."
Yeah.
But if you don't know God, you don't know God. So you can't expect people to behave a certain way if they don't have the Holy Spirit living in them. So our youth group at times was actually bigger than the whole congregation on Sunday morning.
Amen.
So it was unreal, and would often sometimes just hold church in a park.
Yeah.
So I sort of felt like, John Wesley, George Whitfield, that was preaching outdoors because all the churches at the time had locked them out. Well, I wasn't locked out of any. I just got to preach outside. So, yeah, it taught me all this sort of stuff. And then we just went out and did it. We just did it. There was no barriers. There was no restrictions. At times we're holding youth group on a Sunday afternoon in local parks, or sometimes, because it was a lot cheaper back then, would hold a whole youth group at a local swimming pool.
Wow.
So this was the days before risk assessments and everything. Try and do that today. But yeah, and it was just a great time. We all just went for it, and it was really, I learnt so many skills along the way.
So straight out into some sort of leadership role, in a developing leadership role straight away, and then you progressed on into chaplaincy work.
Yes. So after years of just being in Eagleby as a missional Christian, we also helped out at the Eagleby Community Centre. We helped run like the local festivals, Carroll's by candlelight stuff, all different things. And then I got asked by one of the they weren't called FDMs back then, but someone's like, "Oh, Nick, Eagleby State School are looking for a chaplain. I think you'd be great." And I remember just laughing, like, why would any kid want me to work in a school?
Wow.
Like, why would any kid want me there doing this stuff? I just straight away shot it down. But they kept asking. And it's interesting, I was 30 years old, and it was my first ever job interview.
Wow.
Up until then, I'd just been given jobs.
So cool.
It was absolutely terrifying in front of the whole board in Brisbane at SU. And then I just hit the ground running.
Yeah.
I think for all those who are worried about they don't know what their calling is, they don't know what their purpose is, they don't know what they're meant to do, well, I never did until that moment when I was 30 years old, and I was a chaplain, and I just loved it. It was the first time in my life I never looked at my watch going, oh, when's the day going to end?
Wow.
I just wanted it to keep going, and I was at that school for 10 years. I was at other schools, but 13 years later, I'm still loving being a school chaplain in the community.
The work that school chaplains do is really quite unique. It's a great support role. It's a way of having an adult presence, but someone who's not networked in with the authority structure of the school. It's a way to have an advocate and an ally for the students, for their needs, away from perhaps some of the structural, maybe politics or requirements of a school, of government oversight. How do you find your role as a chaplain, and what are the benefits of it for maybe people listening who don't really understand what chaplains do? Could you describe for us the kind of work that you do and the support of these kids, and what it is that they really need from your presence as a chaplain in the school?
Well, the first awesome thing about school chaplaincy is when you go into a school, the school will say what they're looking for, like where the gaps, but also you mold it to your personality. So the first thing is it's a long-term thing. Chaplaincy is not just I tell all the young chaplains coming through now that school chaplaincy is test cricket. It's not 2020. So you don't come in all glitz and glamour and look at me, shiny. It's the long road. For test cricket, it's 5 days. It can be grueling. The highs are high, the lows are low. And you basically we champion the underdogs. So we champion the underdogs. We offer support. We listen. We don't teach. So we don't tell people what to do. We don't give advice too much. We're just there to listen and to be a caring person, because being a kid can be really tough. But also, the longer you stay a chaplain, you're there for the students. But then the longer you're there, the more you're trusted. Then you're there for the family.
Right.
And then you go wider to the community. So now 13 years later, as a school chaplain, I'm being asked to do funerals for family members. I'm asked to do weddings for some of the students that are now all grown up and are getting married, and which means I can take them through pre-marriage counselling. So, but you mold it to your personality. So a lot of my chaplaincy over the years was sports-based. I really felt where I needed to teach resilience, persistence, and problem solving and organization. Those four things were four things I identified in my community that I needed to teach young people. But you can't just tell them, read this and you now know resilience. Yeah. Resilience is only taught through life and learning it.
Our guest in studio is Pastor Nick Carroll from Beenleigh Baptist Church, and Nick's involved in ministry to the young generation and quite a lot of experience as well in chaplaincy and working with the community. Nick, could you share with us and carry on a little bit more about how it's worked out for you with working with the community and your sports chaplaincy that you've done a fair bit of?
It came down and it comes down to longevity. So I'd been in the community a long time, and I was able to network and work alongside so many other great people in the community, and we're better together. Yeah. Ministry is not something to really do alone. So once I was sort of in the chaplaincy, I'd already been running youth groups in Eagleby for nearly a decade. So then through all that, I ended up with the community centre. I helped them out. Then myself and another local guy, we actually founded a rugby league club in Eagleby.
Wow.
as a way just to bring all the kids in and really mentor them, give them purpose, teach them about having pride in your community, not vandalizing it, but actually being proud of where you live and then representing it.
Brilliant, man.
And a lot of statistics have shown that the crime rate actually dropped while the club was doing really, really well.
Wow.
And then from there, it was just connecting all these pieces to local churches. So we had the opportunity to start up the men's shed. We teamed up with someone who was already doing it, but we brought it to the local club.
Brilliant.
So every second month would actually hold the shed night, Ian Watto's shed formula, but with the lights of the football field in the background. And then we identified a lot of mental health issues in the area. So we started a mental health week where we brought churches and Christian groups and community groups for a 6-day long event where it was all based on the game on Saturday. So if you played in this game on the Saturday, you had to train through the week and then turn up to these little workshops.
Wow.
And then they got to they got to auction to keep their jersey at the end as a keepsake. So we just started doing all these things that brought people together, and then Christians could just share their stories or connect. We did this right up until COVID. And then when COVID hit and the lockdowns come in, that was the first time since I'd become a Christian that I had nothing to do on the weekend. So, and that led to a lot of deep reflection of this thing called balance, and that I didn't have it as well as I should have.
Right.
And then that's led into the season now that I'm in, which is much more balanced. And yes, I still do lots of the Lord's work in the church and the community, but I love being with my wife and with my 2 young girls as well.
That's wonderful. How old are your daughters?
The oldest is Grace, and she's 9, and my youngest is Gianna, and she's 6 in December, so 5 now.
Oh, brilliant, mate. And then how long have you been married for?
19 years. 20th anniversary next year. So,
and what's your wife's name?
Naomi.
Naomi. Wow,
And,
beautiful Bible name.
Yes, it is. And we met while teaching Sunday school. So she taught an older age. Because I was this new Christian, I only taught preschool, which is prep now.
What could go wrong there?
Yeah, we just made like the Tower of Babel and Play-Doh, and then we all smashed it.
Cool.
But I had to do this Winston the dog skit with this lady, and Winston talked like this. Oh, hello, I've been naughty this week. And I had to do this whole skit with a sock puppet.
Wow.
With this really gorgeous, attractive Greek lady behind me, and I was this bright red, and she's just laughing at me, and she's been laughing at me now ever since, really.
That's pretty awesome, mate. And so what's Naomi's work with the church? Is she involved with you at the moment, or is she more focusing on home life?
More focusing on home life these days, but really sort of assisting me with all. I'm not very good with admin or planning or anything like that, so she's always the rock in the background.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so you guys met at church, and then was she involved with you through those years while you were in the community doing youth work?
Yeah, she was there through most of it. With the church plant that we're involved in, she would do all the planning. When we took kids on camps, we did annual camps where they were free for the local kids.
Oh.
She was the one that booked everything, planned everything, wrote all the scripts, kept us organized over the weekend. But she has a lovely group of friends at our kids' school, and she's in a really, really good season of life right now.
Now, Nick, you mentioned a word there that's maybe even a dirty word to many these days, the B word, the balance word. How are you finding balance in this phase of your life? What are you finding to be the priorities that you're working with right now that you can actually say that you're living in balance?
Yep. The first is I always I try to be home at a certain time now, and I try to have a day like a Sabbath day.
Yeah.
I haven't been always good at it, but basically knowing that a lot of the work can be tomorrow. So, like, we're often like pushing people to do things now, first thing, and all that. But if you are an efficient worker anyway, for us, we need to like, hey, what can wait till tomorrow?
Yeah.
Turn your phone off when you get home. Be present. I would often come home and all the problems were still in my head, and all the things I didn't do in the day. Where now, as soon as I turn the car off, that's it now. Work boots, stay outside, and you be with the family.
So that lesson from the youth where your dad made you kick off your shoes, you go out and play, we're dealing with the reverse of it now. You're going to kick them off and go home and play with the family.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, leave the boots off, because we can be at home but not present.
Yeah.
Like our minds are, and especially when you work in the church, when you actually care for people and you have ministry, it's very hard to have boundaries, and it is a very weak point. So twice a school term, I have a professional supervisor that keeps me in check because I know I'm not good at it. I want to be, but work can overtake me at times.
And a final thought before we go to a break now. What's one idea that you can give with us about being present for the family when we come home?
Focus on their needs.
Focus
on their needs. If we're going to love our neighbor as ourselves, if we want to treat people the way we want to be treated, when you're at home, put their needs above your own.
Sunday morning together across Australia on Vision Christian Radio.
Tosh Sturgis filling in for Phil Edwards, and we're wrapping up now with Pastor Nick Carroll, who's shared with us some wonderful thoughts of life as a minister in Beenleigh, as a chaplain. And we want to ask you, Pastor Nick, if you would finalise our program right now and just pray for the nation of Australia.
I would love to. And Australia, thank you for sharing the morning with me. Let me pray. Loving Father, we just thank you that we could all come together, even with this model of worship, this model of doing church together on Sunday, and Lord, I just think now of all the different people all over the country. Lord, some have been having floods, some have been having wild weather and storms. Lord, I pray for everyone that's rebuilding during these times. But Lord, I also think of all those down south, all the farmers that have been going through years of drought. Lord, we're a country of so many extremes, and Lord, I just pray for all those that are doing it really hard in droughts right now. Lord, I just pray that you give them comfort, that you give them some sense of strength to get through this, to know that even in these really tough times that you haven't forgotten them, that your presence is still there. Lord, I pray for all those raising families. Lord, I pray for all the families in our country. I pray for all those that might be lonely or doing it hard. Lord, I pray for those that have fractured relationships in their lives. And Lord, with all different people going through different things, Lord, I just pray that we as Christians put you first, that we trust in you in all things, no matter what circumstances we're going for. I pray that we all love you with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and that because of this great love that we continue to put our faith in our Saviour Jesus so that we may love those. Lord, I pray for all the neighbourhoods and communities in this country that we may shine a light on all these people. In your loving name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Nick Carroll. It's been our pleasure to have you with us this morning. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. God bless.
I bless you too, mate. Bless Naomi and your beautiful daughters, and we wish you every success out there serving the Lord in that wonderful area of Beenleigh. God bless you heaps, mate. And thanks also to Mac for joining us this morning. He's come in to be Pastor Nick's armor bearer. So we just want to say it was great to have you with us and give you your Aussie radio debut. Great to have you too, mate. Thanks.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.